Thank you for including me as a part of this dynamic panel. I'm sorry that I have to participate in this wonderful conference virtually. I really wanted to be there as this would have been my first marketing conference ever, and I was looking forward to meet and exchange ideas with all of the esteemed researchers in this area. I would start off by admitting that I was not too familiar with Bob's work and his enormous contributions until I searched the internet. What an honor to be a part of the panel discussing his achievements and extending his visions into the future. Not sure if I have the required expertise, but please feel free to consider me as a novice in a group of experts. The first 4 decades of internet has equipped us with tools to substantially reduce the cost of searching, collaborating, and exchanging information. It has also lowered the barriers to entry for new retailing, entertainment, media, and several other industries. Sensor technology, artificial intelligence is affecting every aspect of our daily lives, from autonomous cars to smart cities to digital wallets. While internet has several positive changes, it has severe limitations for business and economic activity. And one of the big issues is establishing trust in an online environment. We cannot reliably establish identity of counterparties to freely exchange money or any information without the validation from an intermediary, such as a bank or government agencies. This results in a bigger problem as these financial institutions or any intermediaries constantly collect our data for personal gains. Blockchain technology can remove the need for these intermediaries by automating the trust protocol. It provides architecture for so-called trustless trust. It allows us to trust the output of a system without trusting any actors involved. So I'll take a step back and we'll try to explore what exactly is blockchain. A blockchain protocol operates on the top of internet on a peer-to-peer network of computers that all run the protocol and hold an identical copy of ledger of transactions starting from the first block, which is also called the Genesis block, until today without a middleman. Distributed consensus based on economic incentive mechanisms using game theory combined with cryptography, which allows for secure peer-to-peer validation of transactions, thus bypassing the need for traditional trusted third parties. I'll provide a detailed example later on, but it might suffice to say that a blockchain can be compared to a Google Docs. Each person has the latest version of the document and everybody can inspect it. In order to change the contents of the doc, users need to reach a mutual agreement or consensus. However, as opposed to Google Docs, in blockchain, the file is not centrally located, but each node or a block of the network keeps a copy of all the transactions that have happened on the blockchain. Hence, it's called a distributed ledger that records all the transaction history. 3 broad applications of blockchain has been identified thus far: cryptocurrencies, raising capital through ICOs or these initial coin offerings and smart contracts, and decentralized data warehouses. The recent price run-up for Bitcoin has brought cryptocurrencies in limelight, but I believe the most disruptive application of this technology, especially in the field of financial intermediation, is the ICO and the smart contracts. Let me give you an example of how ICO or the smart contracts works. Take the example of buying or selling cars. If X wants to purchase a car from Y, a series of trusted third parties are required to verify and authenticate the deal. The process differs from country to country, but always involves at least one, but usually more trusted third parties. It is a complicated and lengthy process, and considerable fees are involved in the transaction. Now let's see how blockchain can simplify this process. On the blockchain, a smart contract could be used to define all the rules of valid car sales. If X wants to buy the car from Y using a smart contract on blockchain, the transaction would be verified by each node in the blockchain network to see if Y is the owner of the car and if X has enough money to pay for the car. If the network agrees that both the conditions are true, X automatically gets access code to the smart lock of the garage. The car has its own blockchain address. Let's call it 000AAA, which is stored on the network. Blockchain registers X as the new owner of the car 000AAA. Y has $20,000 more in his account and X has $20,000 less. No middleman is required. Some of you may argue that that is fine, but how do you avoid stealing without a trusted middleman, without the government involvement? Well, on blockchain, who owns what is transparent and at the same time anonymous or pseudo-anonymous. This means that every computer running the blockchain protocol could check whether a certain person is a rightful owner of the car or not. Stealing cars won't be as easy as today, especially once we have smart keys granting access control verified on blockchain to unlock the future cars. For example, let's say C wants to steal the car and claim the ownership of X's car. Since every transaction is stored on public blockchain, everyone can inspect and see that the owner of car 000AAA is X and not C. And hence these transactions will be invalidated and the car will automatically lock and cease from operations. This is all pretty good, but there are several hurdles on the way for successful implementation of blockchain technology. I have categorized them into three broad areas here: psychological issues, technology-related issues, and regulatory uncertainties. The main concern here is I don't believe that this technology is completely ready for mass implementations. Participants in this space have only vague understanding about what cryptocurrencies are, and very few have heard or know about the underlying blockchain technology. The second factor under psychological issue that I feel is the lack of infrastructure. For example, think about the Greece crisis that happened, I think, a couple or 3 years ago. Infrastructure for Bitcoin was lacking at that time, and people in Greece wanted to get into these cryptocurrencies, but they didn't have any exchanges to allow them for these kind of transactions. Unless and until we develop the infrastructure so that anyone, anywhere can get in and out of these crypto assets easily, it's going to be difficult for mass implementation. Also consider the latency of transactions. For example, on Bitcoin blockchain, it takes about 10 minutes to clear a transaction, which raises concerns again about scaling. Then there are several behavioral issues. Most people with bank accounts like to talk to another human with all the issues they are facing, especially recovering the lost passwords. Also, most people are not used to backing up money on a hard drive. Smart contracts automatically executes without giving any heads up to defaulting party, which might be against some social norms. A system that never forgets might be sociopathic. It is difficult for society to accept unforgetting system when we as humans believe in giving a second chance. There are several technological issues that we need to be aware of. For example, user interface. Whenever you create an account to trade these cryptocurrencies, you get a complicated private key. This private key is a combination of some numbers and alphabets. But once you lose that private key, there's no way to recover your holdings in your account. Again, because there's no intermediary here. There's no contact number for any person who is responsible for running the system. This is a decentralized network, and hence, once you lose the private key, everything inside that account is pretty much lost. Also think about illiquidity. Not everyone accepts cryptocurrencies as a form of payment, which can raise some issues regarding scaling in the future. One of the big issues that I think is inbuilt in the technological framework of cryptocurrencies is consensus network. If someone for any reason controls 51% or more of the network, he or she can take control of the consensus network and alter past and future transactions. Another issue with these cryptocurrencies is inbuilt inflation. The way these cryptocurrencies are created is through a process which is called mining. Simply speaking, mining is a process whereby individuals contribute energy and resources to make sure the system runs flawlessly. For example, mining rewards for bitcoins is currently 12.5 bitcoin. So if someone is mining a bitcoin or coming up with a new block, then as a reward for the usage of energy or their time, they get 12.5 bitcoins right now. And that mining rewards are designed in such a way that they halve every 4 years in case of Bitcoin. Once all of the Bitcoins are mined, what would be the motivation for miners to contribute their resources to keep the blockchain running? And what I anticipate is probably the transactions costs are going to go up. The another big technological issue is limited storage on blockchain. Every Bitcoin block can only hold 8 megabytes of data. As we move forward in time, the number of transactions to be recorded is increasing, and we may need more than 8 megabytes of space. As this is all pre-programmed, it might be complicated to change anything into the blockchain. Now let's talk a little bit about the regulatory framework here. The biggest concern that everyone across the globe, all the regulators have is the usage of energy. The Bitcoin blockchain runs on proof of work consensus method, which is very important to establish the trust. hashing algorithm, which is basically an algorithm that solves problem to validate the transactions and create a new block, that requires a lot of energy that might not be sustainable in the future. Based on a conservative estimate, roughly 30 million trillion hashes are solved per second on Bitcoin blockchain. BitcoinEnergyConsumption.com estimates that Bitcoin blockchain uses more energy than consumed by the entire country of Czech Republic, and it is only estimated to go up. The energy consumption comes with a much larger carbon footprint. The energy is not only consumed in running the systems, but also cooling them to make sure they don't crash. Another environmental issue is related to disposing of mining equipments, which is currently happening at every 6 months. There are other regulatory issues, for example, the regulatory uncertainty. We don't know how the regulators around the world are going to react to the increased usage of the blockchain. So far, we have only seen extreme regulations in case of cryptocurrencies. Countries such as China and India have made Bitcoin as an illegal tender, while countries like Japan has adapted to the changing environment. In the US, SEC is still contemplating on regulating crypto assets. There are also some legal consequences. The existing laws are not compatible with blockchain applications such as the automatically executing smart contracts, so we might need some new kind of laws to deal with these crypto assets. There's also something called dictator's learning curve. The automatically executable smart contracts can be misused for personal gains or public harm. For example, if someone comes up with a smart contract where cryptocurrency is held in escrow until a drone delivers a package to a pre-specified address, think of the terrorist organizations, how they can misuse this kind of smart contract. All they have to do is just replace the package with a bomb, and that's it. So there's a lot of possible misuse that could happen on the blockchain technology, which is true for any technology, by the way. I want to conclude by saying that decentralized network of blockchain can definitely help the highly centralized fields of marketing and finance. I have been fortunate to serve on the Wyoming Blockchain Coalition. Wyoming has become the only state in the world that has passed and signed into law a total of 5 pro-blockchain bills. The details of those bills are available on the internet. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. Here is my email address. One of the big issues with recorded presentation is I don't know if everyone has already left the room, but if not, thank you for listening to me. Have a wonderful rest of the conference.